Final hour overdrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Jonas Siegel of The Athletic. Up on TSN 2 now. Our buddy Steve Phillips will join us here in a moment. Jays Sox tonight. We're talking about Chicago being a great road trip. A great spot to go watch a ball game.
How do you feel about the pizza?
I love it.
Really?
Love deep dish.
Really?
Yes. Really, really phenomenal pizza.
So I remember going to Chicago and being really excited to try it and being so disappointed. I was like, what is all this dough?
It is really doughy.
Gross.
It is really a ridiculous concept. I'll grant you that. It's not something you can't eat it every night, and it's not something you can eat a lot of.
No.
It's like a slice and you're done. But you go to the right spot. I think it's really good.
Okay.
The Chicago popcorn's great. They got great steakhouses.
Chicago popcorn is great.
The food in Chicago is great.
What do you think our thing is?
In Toronto?
Yeah, like I don't know that when someone comes here, it's not like you say you got to have this.
We don't
have
know.
anything.
I'm not sure we have anything.
Like we have amazing food, but we don't have like
Yeah.
a thing.
No, I don't think we have a signature dish in Toronto.
Wonder why.
Poutine
is not a Toronto dish. Get out of here.
No,
Grappler,
you're
what are
talking
you
Toronto.
talking
Okay, I
about?
thought we were talking
Toronto.
Canada-wide here.
No, we're
Nah.
talking about Toronto here. Like Canada, yes, poutine. I'm sure there's other dishes you could think of that would be known up here, like throughout the country. But in Toronto, we don't have anything. Like hot dogs, like street meat would maybe be a part of it. But that's everywhere. You go to New York, you can find that. Chicago.
Wonder why.
I don't know. Like you said, like our food is world renowned. We have great restaurants,
Yeah.
very eclectic, like options.
You can get anything you
Everything
want.
is represented here.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the one thing that is specific to Toronto, it's just not there. We need someone to create something like that. Like, what would a Toronto pizza look like? Because there's Chicago, there's Detroit,
Right, yeah.
there's Toronto, or there's New York.
New York.
I'm sure there's other types of pizza in the States. But we need someone to come up with something that is like, is it pineapples on pizza? Is that a Canadian
Is that
thing?
our thing? I don't think that's our thing.
That feels Canadian, though. I don't think they really do
I
that anywhere
actually
else.
have an order for that tonight.
You like pineapples on pizza?
Love it.
See, that to me is blasphemy. That's goofy.
What's with you people?
With us people that are
Yeah.
anti-pineapple on pizza?
Because not only are you anti, you're like, no way, it's terrible.
I don't know. And I don't mind pineapples. It just doesn't jive for
Have
me.
you tried it?
Nah,
Okay.
it's more of a visual thing. It's like a mental block I can't get over.
Try it.
I'll try it for you, Jonas. For you, I'll give it a shot.
Toronto's own.
Toronto's own. There it is. Pineapple on pizza. That's our thing.
There you go.
Steve Phillips will join us here in a moment. Barrios on a mount tonight. Alek Manoah on Friday. I'm curious to hear what Steve has to say. I'm guessing he's like everyone else, shocked by the news.
Well, I'm pretty sure he wrote that they should send him down a few days before they sent him down. So he was like ahead of this. I'm guessing he was not writing. I didn't see anything saying they should call him back up.
That was one of the most shocking news developments I can recall on this show. The Grappler got in my ear, said, I got something. And when he said that, I was thinking, all right, what is it? You know, like, did Elias Samsonov file for arbitration? Like, do we really need that? It's not breaking news. It was breaking news that Schneider had just announced that Manoah was coming up on Friday.
Also, why before the All-Star break?
Well, I was thinking the same thing. You're about to go into the break. Why not just let it breathe, give him another start down in the minors, and come up, break camp, post All-Star break as a part of the team after that. Reset your rotation, make sure he's set up. If you want him game one coming out of the All-Star break, fine. The only thing I can think of is, you come out of the break, it's the unofficial beginning of the second half. Are you going to blend him into the rotation? Does he get the ball the first game coming out of the break? Not that that game counts for any more or any less than any other game, but it is somewhat of an isolated moment in the season, right? First game after the break, everyone's jacked, the team's back, everyone's back in order. Okay, it's time to really get going. Manoah, is he going to represent that? Here, it's Friday. It's Detroit. Their bats are pretty weak. Like, I don't think that's a coincidence that they're going to try to squeeze him in before Detroit. But I'm not sure what the explanation is. Outside of them and I don't think they'll ever be this blunt publicly, and I don't think they'll give us this information, but outside of them just suggesting a month ago, this is what is happening. You're down for a month. You're going to lose, this amount of weight, and you're going to pitch twice, and then you're going to meet us in Detroit. Like if it was simply a formality, that doesn't seem to make sense. But if nothing else makes sense, then how outlandish does it really sound?
Yeah. It's such a drastic move. That's the thing.
It's been a month.
Yeah.
A month. This guy was lost a month ago. He went down there. He got even more lost in the Florida Complex League. And now one start in Double-A where admittedly he was pretty good against Double-A batters. The guy's coming up, and he's getting thrown back into the fire on Friday. Here's Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst. You think we'll ever get the true explanation as to why Manoah's coming up on Friday?
Well, I don't know that we're going to get the direct one. I mean, I can explain it. I mean, there are some reasons that they would give, not the least of which is that they want to get an answer on who he is and if he's going to get fixed to determine what they need to do at the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. And so, if he goes out and throws a clunker, then they're going to probably have to go get a front end of the rotation starter. If he comes back and he pitches well, then they're going to probably, sort of temper that a little bit. And if it's middle of the road, then they're going to have to look for probably a little bit better pitcher overall. My issue with it is just that the issue isn't can he come back and have a good start. The issue is going to be that when he gets in trouble in a game, when he struggles a little bit, because it's going to happen, it happens to even the best pitchers, that when that happens, does he abandon the newfound mechanics, the newfound confidence, the newfound mental approach of attacking the zone and go back to trying to miss bats? I mean, and to me, that's why the calling him up after one good start doesn't make sense, because when you're trying to fix somebody, it's not fixed. The sample size of one is not enough.
No.
Especially because he hit rock bottom and then he hit another rock bottom when he faced all the youngest minor leaguers there. And so that's the part that I don't quite understand, because they're good baseball guys. I mean, Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins are good baseball guys. And what they're doing seems to be, one, they're looking at it saying, okay, it's against Detroit, so it's a soft landing spot. We're going to give Gausman the extra day, so that makes sense. And the reason they're doing that is Gausman then gets an extra day of rest so that he can get pitched deeper into the game if Manoah gets knocked out early on Friday and they use up their bullpen. And so there's some part of that is part of this too, because they can line it up after the All-Star break however they want it. So, but I do think they're trying to figure out what he is so they can figure out what to do at the deadline. I personally looked at it and thought, start in the minor leagues on Friday. Then when everybody's on All-Star break, start in the minor leagues on Wednesday. And then what you do is you put him on the back end of your rotation and you put him in front of Gausman if you feel like you need to do that to protect the innings part of it. But you get 3 minor league starts out of it where maybe some of these adjustments and changes get ingrained in motor memory and in confidence to where he's much better situated. It doesn't feel like this is the best way to set him up to succeed by bringing him back on Friday.
So it's obviously hard to say. Do you think this was the plan? And if it wasn't the plan, what shifted the plan? Is it just the timing you talked about with trades and all that?
I think it was a fluid plan. And if he had not had a good start at Double-A, I don't think that this necessarily would have been part of the plan. But I think their belief is that he has confidence now, better than it was. And, of course, it's going to be better than it was. But, my experience is that it was so bad for so long that one good start does not wash away all the bad thinking and the distorted thinking that comes with that and that self-doubt that comes with it, that once something goes wrong in the next start, to me, he gets overwhelmed by the negative thoughts again. If he has 3 good minor league starts, then I think he's got the ability to deal with some adversity in a way that doesn't cause him to panic and feel like he's got to just, give in to all of those things that he had learned while he was, rehabbing his delivery.
Yeah, I don't think it is a coincidence that he had a good start and then they got him up, because I think they were likely fearful if you give him another run on Friday night and he gets torched.
Isn't that kind of naive, though?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what I'm suggesting. That it was, okay, please move up to Double-A. Please be good. He still walked a few guys. He was good, though. He threw 10 Ks. He got stronger as the game went on. By all accounts,
velocity was good.
Velocity was good. His slider was moving. Great.
Yep.
Confident. But Double-A, New Hampshire. But if that's enough, then that would suggest to me they never really wanted to send him down. They just felt they had to get him out of Gotham City. Like, he had to go. He had to get out, show us one good thing, and we'll get you right back up here.
Yeah. It's just, it doesn't feel like the normal way to rebuild somebody when they've been struggling to do it. And so, he's going to come back up. I guess the way I've always looked at it is this. If he comes back and throws a clunker and the owner says, well, why did you think that just one start was going to make him fixed? And that's a real obvious question. Then you're probably bringing him back too soon. Like, if he has 3 minor league starts that are all pretty good, and he comes back and he has a clunker, it's not an obvious question. Well, why did you bring him back? Well, we brought him back because he had 3 quality starts. We thought he made progress. That's explainable.
Yeah.
One start doesn't seem as explainable. And here's the thing. I hope he comes back and he's fixed and he's locked back in. But, we tend not to want to evaluate on small sample sizes in either direction. And so that's why I'm surprised that the one start was enough of a sample size to warrant his coming back.
So how long is the leash here? Like, they're not going to bring him up for one start. If Detroit gets all over him, they're going to send him back to Florida. I mean, he's got to get, 2, 3, 4 starts? What would you expect the leash to be?
I think he's going to be, I don't know that they're looking at the thought of, I don't think they're thinking to themselves, well, if he has this number of bad starts, we'll send him back down again. I think they're thinking, okay, we've got him back on track in a better direction than he was. Let's keep our fingers crossed that it's good. But if it's bad, you're going to go to the All-Star break, try to flush out all the bad thinking, bring him back after the break. And so, I don't think there's any thought there of the idea that we're going to send him back down again. Now, it could happen, but I think that's going to take, again, catastrophic performance on his part to have to go back down again.
Well, you mentioned the bullpen, like pushing Gosman back the day after, assuming he's going to give you 7+ possibly on Saturday. What does that say about the next 2 nights, though? You got Barrios tonight, Kikuchi tomorrow. Like, the marching orders must be, you got to give us a lot of innings, because what if they waste up the bullpen? You go into Manoah on Friday, and you're not coming off any off days, and your arms are on fumes.
Yeah. That's the risk you run, right? That is the risk you run. And now here's the thing. If it wasn't him pitching Friday, it might have been a bullpen day anyways. And so, that would make them a little bit vulnerable. But look, Barrios and Kikuchi have thrown better. You just hope, they could find themselves in that spot even if Manoah was back or wasn't back, especially if it was going to be a bullpen day. So, I think they're going to go into it optimistic, hope that the offense produces, that they can, create some margin for error. It'd be nice to get them some runs early to be able to build in some protection to allow them to think about being aggressive in the zone, not worrying about solo home runs. Yesterday, Max Scherzer was pitching and at one point gave up 3 solo home runs. And, he said after the game, he said, I'm a believer that solo home runs don't beat you. And to that point, he stays aggressive in the zone, even if somebody hits a home run. Where what I felt like for Manoah was that when somebody hit him, then he tried to overthrow, which means his front shoulder flew open, his slider got flat, his fastball kept missing up and into the right-handed hitter to arm side, and his stuff fell off. And then, he tried to miss bats, so he would walk guys, get hitters and hitters counts, and then he'd have to throw it over the plate when they were sitting on stuff that was less than what it's been before, and they hit him. And so, for Manoah, he's got to maintain some level of getting in the zone and attacking hitters, even if his stuff isn't quite right, because it won't work the other way. And he still might get knocked around if he throws strikes, but he's got a better chance of success if he attacks hitters in the zone than by trying to nibble off the corners.
Well, so Steve, how would you approach trade talks with this whole kind of meatball hanging out there? Like, do you need to see 5 good starts? Like, when do you kind of pivot, or do you pivot?
Yeah, so you're not going to have the luxury of that necessarily. So you're going to get this start, and then he'll come back after the break. Probably get 2, maybe 3. After 2 starts, you're going to have to decide what level of pitcher you're going to get, because that third start before the deadline will be right up against it. And look, even if Manoah gets back on track and you went out and got a more elite level pitcher, okay, it's not the worst thing in the world to do it. But I would say right now, going into it, because those conversations have to be happening now. And so I would be talking to teams with all different levels of starting pitchers, and be in on everybody. make it seem like you're really interested in everybody's guy. So they keep you engaged in those conversations. They don't think you're just there only if something collapses on you. And then you continue the dialogue with parallel paths of different levels of starters so that when the time comes that you've made the decision, you're not starting from scratch and trying to catch up to teams who have exchanged names and everything else who have an idea about what you'd be willing to do. Because what you can do now is you can have a conversation saying, if I end up being in on Lucas Giolito, this is what the type of deal I'd be willing to do. And so that at least, lets the conversations move along a little bit so that you're not starting from scratch.
With Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst, Jays White Sox tonight, coming off a big win last night, a big clutch hit. Finally, we had a couple of them last night. Whit Merrifield had one, and Vladdy goes deep to effectively win the game last night. We were talking about this earlier, Steve. There's still a lot of ball games left, over 65 games left to be played. You got the second half of the season. There's a lot left to be determined, and the Jays have been in this spot before. But if you could put 2021 Vladdy in the lineup every single day the rest of the way, is that enough in and of itself to make you feel like it would be a lock they'd make the playoffs?
Yes. Yeah, I think if that would make me feel really comfortable that you're going to be the third wild card team. But I in order to go further than that, I think the pitching is going to have to get better. Now, whether that's Manoah returning to form, which again, I think it's wishful thinking that he's going to be the, last year's Manoah and one of the finalists for the Cy Young. But I would think better. They're going to have to, I think, fortify the bullpen too a little bit more than what they have right now. They're going to need some other arms in that bullpen. I'd like to get another lefty in the bullpen for them. Although Swanson handles left-handers extremely well. So they don't necessarily have to get another left-hander, but I needed another quality reliever out there as well. So I think they're going to be in the market for bullpen help. I don't know necessarily they're going to look for position players anywhere, but I think it's going to be starting pitching. And here's the thing for the White Sox. If the White Sox get hot and it takes Cease, Giolito, and Lynn off the market, then the starting pitching market thins out a little bit. Now, James Paxton, if the Red Sox, falter, could be a guy who could be available, and he's pitched well this year. But the problem is you could trade for him, and then, he's had so many freak injuries, you just never know if he's going to be predictably healthy the rest of the way, but he's pitching real well. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, that the Central Division, will the Beavers of the world be available, or the Guardians going to stay in the race? And what's going to happen with that, and so then it comes down to are the Mets going to be sellers? Are the Cardinals going to be sellers? Are the Padres going to be sellers? Because all three of those teams are going to be fighting for wild card spots. The Cardinals may be the division, but I don't know they have any pitching that necessarily is going to help Toronto, but maybe bullpen. But I do think that it's going to be a late developing trade market because so many teams are somewhat on a bubble or are going to want to see if they get hot coming out of the break. And so they'll have conversations with them, but those teams can disappear as a potential seller for the Blue Jays if they get hot at the right time.
Well, and then you look at the AL West, and there's the LA Angels, and it feels like they're going to do it again, Steve, where now you got Trout out for a long time. Rendon takes a foul ball off his shin, I guess, last night. Sounds like it's only a contusion, but who knows what's going to happen with him. And Ohtani had to leave the game with a blister that he suffered from in the past. I don't think they're trading Ohtani. I'm pretty sure they've announced that's likely not going to happen, but it's likely going to be another wasted season, right? It just feels like the Angels are going to do it again, where they're going to have Ohtani doing something we've never seen before. Trout's getting injured, and it feels like that's basically an annual event now, which sucks. And they're just going to be that team that could have been, would have been, should have been, but just never simply will.
Yeah, I think bye Felicia is kind of how I look at it right now.
That's right.
For them. Yeah, and O-Dog always sort of uses that line, so I thought I'd borrow it for him. So, but I do think that, I'm with you. I just think it feels like a death blow. The loss of Trout feels like a death blow to them. Mickey Moniak and Joe Adell are going to man center field for them now. Rendon can't stay healthy and seems to have a low threshold for pain. I mean, it always seems like there's something that's nagging him that pulls him out of the lineup. And I know he drilled himself with a foul ball, but he was on crutches after the game and everything else. Throw some ice on it and some dirt on it. Can you get in the lineup the next day?
No kidding.
But yeah, I think the Angels, they're going to come up short again. They're now out of the wild card race. They're a couple games out now and seem to be heading in the wrong direction. They've lost 7 of their last 10. And the pitching's not quite what it needs to be. The offense not quite needs to be. You lose Trout too. Defensively, they're not always what they need to be. And so, yeah, it just feels to me that it's going to fizzle away again. I think it's, for me, it's malpractice not to trade Ohtani. If they're 6 games out of the wild card, at July 28th, you got to trade Ohtani. I mean, it's the right baseball move to make, and you weren't going to sign him anyways. And if you want to sign him as a free agent, well, let him go to free agency and sign him and bring him back, and then let him play with all the young prospects you got for him in return. That's your best chance to winning again at some point in the future if you're not going to win this year.
Do you think those calls start happening now, like today, just based on everything that's happened?
Yeah, I do. I think that, there's so many teams that are on the bubble. The Angels are there, the Mariners are there, right? And you look at the White Sox, who aren't really in the wild card. They're 11.5 games behind that, but they're 7 in the division. But it's not a division where anybody's separating themselves. You get Minnesota at 44 and 43. And so, you've got all those teams who are sort of saying, well, we might be buyers, we might be sellers. So Rick Hahn, the GM in Chicago, has to be having conversations with both the buyers and sellers right now, saying, look, I'm not sure which we are yet. And keep us involved. If you're selling, we may be buying, but if you're buying, we may be selling. And so I think you have to, it's just such an odd year with so many teams that are in that position right now. Like, what's Boston? Are they a buyer or a seller? They're in last place in the division at 500. If they were in the AL Central, they'd be in second place, a half game out of first. And so, where are the Mets right now? Are they actually in this race, or are they not in this race? Are the Pirates really in the race, or is David Bednar going to be available as a closer, which would be a great pickup for somebody, including the Jays, if they could get him. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see how teams label themselves. And I think that, once you get a week beyond the All-Star game, they're going to have to really apply that label and start more serious conversations.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a wild race. And, Tampa has separated themselves all year, but it's not as if they're completely gone yet. It feels like a formality. They likely hold on to the AL East. But then you look at Baltimore, they've been a great story this year. Their pitching is still really struggling. Like, some of the statistics on a lot of the arms they go to a lot are bloated. You got the Yankees, who they patch it together every single year, but Judge is basically telling people whenever he comes back, he will not be 100%. It's not going to happen. So I don't have a ton of faith in them. And I guess what I'm saying is, from a Blue Jay perspective, you're sitting here 4th in the AL East. You might include the Sox, though, in that, too, at 500, and say, do I really believe Baltimore and New York are going to chase down 92, 93 wins? Like, both of them? Not sure that's going to happen, Steve.
Right. No, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And so I think it's going to be tough for the Jays, obviously, to win the division. I think it's going to be tough for them to catch the Orioles. The Orioles are going to make some deals this year. They're going to add a starting pitcher into the mix there. And, I don't love their starting pitching, but it's been good enough because they score a lot. Their bullpen is if they have a lead after 6 innings, it's like the old-time Royals that used to have Kelvin Herrera and Wade Davis and Greg Holland at the end of the game. If you had a lead after 6 innings, the Royals were going to beat you then. And right now the Orioles are that way too. There's no scoring on those guys at the end of the game. So they're in a pretty good spot, and I suspect they're going to get better with trades here at the deadline because they do have a farm system from which to make deals.
All right, Steve. Well, we'll see where it goes, buddy. It's going to be an interesting few nights, though, with the Blue Jays. Again, in Chicago tonight, tomorrow, then Alek Manoah returns on Friday in Detroit. Have a great week, pal. We'll do it again soon.
Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst. Yeah, Tampa's been great, and the Yankees will find a way to stay in the mix. They do every single year. Like, they'll trade for a couple of guys. They'll show up. They'll turn into rock stars for 2 months.
Maybe.
Seems to happen all the time.
They don't have the horses that.
No, you look at their like Garrett Cole has been spectacular. Like, Domingo Germán is a great example of the Yankees in a nutshell.
Always perfect game, and then
mess, perfect game, mess. Yeah. It's like, okay, sure. Yet, they just took a couple out of Baltimore. They're right there on the heels of the Orioles. And Baltimore's so young, they haven't been in this position before, which means it may be a scenario where they don't know any better, which can be a positive. But they also might wake up at some point and say, wow, like, look where we are. What are we doing here? And then a veteran team like the Yankees, the Jays, could possibly chase them down. Steve's right about the back end of that bullpen, but that rotation is leaky in Baltimore. Leaky.
Yeah.
In Baltimore. But within each division, outside of Oakland, Colorado, Washington, like those teams are so bad. They knew they were going to be bad. They're out of it. Like even the Mets are 18 games back of Atlanta, but they're within 8 games of the wild card, and they have so much talent. And if you're talking 70, 75 games left to be played, that owner, is he going to sell? I can't picture he would. The amount of
They're kind of all in.
they feel like they're kind of all in.
They're older pitchers.
Yeah.
But can I ask you a hypothetical?
Mm-hmm.
If you're the Jays today, after what happened yesterday with Ohtani, Trout gets hurt, Rendon's always hurt, do you make a call to the Angels?
I think you
make
have
a call,
to.
right?
I think everyone has to make a call. I think you've got to be on the line constantly wondering what's going on there.
And are you serious about it, I guess would be the
I'm not sure they'd be serious. How about this?
Should they be?
If the Ohtani deal went down, if you could get Ohtani, but you'd have to include Manoah in some capacity.
Yeah.
You would do that deal?
You're getting 2 players, basically.
But what if you're only getting him for the rest of the year and he's like, I'm not signing there. I'm going to end up in New York or I'm going back to L.A.
I mean,
like, that's the thing.
I think I'd do
2
it.
months ago, no
I'd
one would do that.
You're trying to win right now. Aren't you?
Yes, I think so. But Manoah, again, 2 months ago, you wouldn't trade Manoah for a rental. It didn't matter who it was. Like, never. You would never entertain that.
There's no comparable to this rental. 100% you would do it, I think.
Yeah, but listen, there is no comparison, but look at the team he's been on for years. One guy cannot make that big of a difference.
That they
in
have
baseball.
more than the Angels do.
They absolutely do. They're in a much tougher division, though.
Why wouldn't you do it now that I think about it? You're getting the starting pitcher you need.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you. I would probably do it if there was an understanding he would listen to the idea of sticking around long term.
Okay.
And if ownership was legitimately willing to pay for it, which I don't believe they would.
I don't think they would.
I don't think they would. But a rental, like at some point you got to put a price on it where you say that's too much. Even though it is Shohei Ohtani. You can't just give everything up. But because it is a pure rental, that deal will look a lot different than even the Juan Soto deal looked like, because they had 2.5 years of control of him.
Yeah. You're right. Get in there.
Something's going to happen.
I like it.
And he's right. Steve's right. It's malpractice if you don't flip him.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to be garbage again and Trout's done again, like, you got to reload. I'd like to see Mike Trout at some point say, you know what? I got to get out of here. Like, pull a Damian Lillard. That never comes up in baseball.
Damian Lillard. That's actually a good comparison because he's been cool.
And, West Coast guy, best player on his team. Trout's better comparatively in terms of what he does to his sport, but, like, Dame's a great player. Incredibly loyal, likes to be obscure. West Coast, leave me alone. Now Dame's like, I got to go. Like, I got to give it a shot here. You would think Trout at some point will snap out of it and say, I got to give myself a chance at a World Series. Maybe it's just not a priority. Like, maybe it's not something he really thinks about or cares that much about. Because if he does, he cannot be in L.A.
Or he can be in L.A.
He could be a Dodger for sure, but he cannot be an L.A. Angel and expect to win a World Series the next 2 or 3 years.
No.
Like, it's not going to happen. All right, we'll get to our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. We'll get to our PGA picks as well, brought to you by TaylorMade. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, we'll get to our best bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Big week for golf, right? We got the John Deere Classic. Everyone loves the John Deere. That one of your top 4 or 5 favorite tournaments?
I actually even know about that, which I don't know.
You're a fan of the John Deere?
I'm aware of it.
Well, that's a good sign because it's not necessarily stacked with big names.
It's on my radar, I'll say that.
That's probably the way to define the John Deere. Okay. I'm aware of it. Right, Grappler?
Oh, yeah. Well,
is that how you define it?
And it used to be so much worse, too. Like, I'm pretty sure it used to be played earlier in the year, and it was either right before the Masters or right before the U.S. Open or something, and you would get nobody.
Yeah,
nobody.
It's not loaded with big names. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
But it's good to have the Grappler in here because we should point out Noodle stepped in last week and picked a winner.
I know.
He picked Rick.
Hard to believe, eh?
It is. I think he might have Morikawa, too. Did he pick Morikawa?
I'm not too sure.
He might have.
I think you had...
I had Hadwin.
Yeah, you had Hadwin.
I had Hadwin. So I was feeling good about Adam Hadwin.
Well, and I felt bad because when I had the board made, I just said, like, just make it O's pick. Like, it doesn't matter. And then, of course, it ends up being a winner. And everyone thinks that it was O who picked Ricky Fowler when, in fact, It was Noodles, the golf guru.
O gets absolutely no credit for that.
No.
Literally none. Because he wasn't on that day.
But I mean, over the year he has. I mean, it's a mix between pumping the tires of Rick Fowler, excuse me.
Is it Rick Fowler now?
No,
it should be though, shouldn't it?
At what age does the Ricky become Rick?
Right, like at 30,
Yeah.
and you're a professional and you're winning you should be Rick Fowler.
Yeah, you got to think so.
Yeah, at some point.
And imagine him on the Champions Tour 30 years from now and still going by Ricky.
Here's Ricky, little
Yeah,
Ricky
it's not going to
Fowler.
fly.
But big win for Rick Fowler. And the PGA picks are brought to you by TaylorMade Golf and the Stealth and Stealth HD irons. I played the 5 and 6 iron, the Stealth. Phenomenal golf club. Phenomenal golf club. All right, Grappler. Well, you're stepping in here, even though you're representing the team that technically got a win last week. I'll allow you to have the first pick. You want to do a 3-pack here and then maybe a couple of picks for the U.S. Open?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. What do you got? First,
all right,
go
I
ahead.
think for my first pick for the John Deere Classic, I'm going to go with Cam Young.
Yeah.
Hasn't had the strongest couple months. Had a couple good finishes back in the spring, I believe. But yeah, as we've talked about, it's a pretty weak field, and
He's looking for his first win too.
Yeah. So if there's a week for him to perform, it seems like he might do it at a tournament like this, whereas competition maybe isn't as strong as it would be other weeks.
That's your biggest talent, like the biggest boom or bust is Cam Young. He's going off. You're getting 16-1 for him to win on FanDuel. I'll take my boy Ludwig Auberg. I know you're a big Auberg fan. This kid is a stud. He's rocking the Adidas gear, but he's a young guy coming out of college. I'm pretty sure he's the number 1 ranked collegiate player. All he does is hit fairways, and all he does is hit like 320, 330.
That'll fly.
Every single fairway, 320, 330. The guy leads like shots gained off the tee basically every tournament he's played as a pro. There haven't been many, but this kid's going to get one, and I think he's going to get one early. He reminds me of when Hovland came on, when Morikawa came on. Matthew Wolff was a part of that crew. That's kind of who this guy is. I'll take him. It's quick. It's an early first pick, but I'm going to take him.
Jonas, any thoughts on that?
You like Ludwig? You're a Ludwig fan.
A fan.
As you should be.
Yeah.
You're
Just like
aware.
this-
He's
like-
on your radar. He's on Jonas's radar.
All right.
Ludwig has been picked. Who
All
else
right.
you got?
I don't know how to recover from that. All right. I think I'm going to go with someone who joined us on the show yesterday, Adam Hadwin.
Yeah.
We talked about it after he was on, and obviously he was gracious in talking about taking in the moment and how cool it was to watch Ricky win, but that must just to be that close after being on tour as long as he has, only having the one win, and to come that close and never know when you're going to get back there. Again, kind of, similar to my rationale with Cam Young, weaker field, been playing some good golf lately.
Great pick.
He talked about it yesterday, wanting to, I guess, can he still qualify for the Open if he wins?
I think if he wins, that probably gets him in automatically.
So that's obviously something that means a lot to him. So Adam Hadwin going off at 27-1 on FanDuel. So Adam Hadwin, second pick.
I like it. I'll take my main man, Denny McCarthy. Shortest odds in the tournament, but Denny, when he gets hot, and he's been hot recently, Mr. Short Game, he's capable of shooting a 61, 62.
Yeah.
Again, not a deep field. Denny McCarthy.
Okay.
I will take him. Now, your final pick, Grappler, on the men's side.
Continuing along the theme of a not very deep field, but he did have a strong week last week. I believe finished T4 just outside the playoff, the Rocket Mortgage. Lucas Glover.
Okay.
Streaky player.
Yep.
Like I said, played a good tournament last week. So, we're hopeful that he keeps it going this time around.
I got to get a Canadian. I'm going to take my boy Nick Taylor.
Okay.
You know it. I have to take Nick Taylor. 45-1 for Nick Taylor to win outright. Are you kidding me? Come on. I mean, those are great odds.
Yeah, got to take that.
That's worth more than just a sprinkle, I think. But this will be a fun tournament because it's going to be some cool story. Someone's going to get it, and it'll be a cool story.
Yeah, and it could lead to someone, first career win, get a trip over for the Open Championship.
Absolutely.
It's
make a lot of money. You're in the Tournament of Champions next year.
Yeah, opens up a lot of big doors.
Yeah, FedEx Cup points are up there. There's a lot on the table here.
Oh yeah.
All right, U.S. Women's Open at Pebble for the first time.
Okay, I'm pumped to watch. I don't think there's a more
West Coast golf and Pebble. It's the best.
There's no course I love watching on TV more than Pebble Beach.
Yes.
It's stunning. Every shot you're seeing hit, it's just beautiful.
Okay. Why don't you take 2 or 3 players, and then I'll take 2 or 3.
Okay, let's do it. All right, my 3 players, since I get a 3-pack. All right, we're going with Jin Young Ko.
Yes.
Plus 1,200. I believe she's first on the money list this year, so obviously expecting good things from her this weekend. Lexi Thompson. She's 28 years old. This is her 17th U.S.
I
Open.
saw that today.
I thought it was fake.
Yeah, so did I.
But no,
she must have been there when she was 13.
12. Her first tournament was when she was 12. Turned pro when she was 15, I believe.
Wow.
And so yeah,
That's on your radar, Jonas.
Yeah. And yeah, she's had like a T2, T3, T5, T7 all over the last several years.
The short game really concerns me a lot.
It's not
Tee
the
to green,
best.
she's a monster.
Not the best.
Not the best.
But yeah, going with Lexi Thompson.
Okay.
And I brought it up beforehand. I got to stick with it. Michelle Wee West at plus 75,000 on FanDuel.
Wow.
Retiring after the U.S. Open. It makes me feel wildly old to see that Michelle Wee is retiring, but who knows? Maybe she finishes with something special.
That would be cool. Annika Sorenstam's playing in this too. I'm not going to pick her, but she's going to be there at Pebble.
That can be Jonas.
All right, I'm going with some big shooters here. I'm going to take Brooke Henderson, friend of the show. I'm going to take Rose Zhang, who she's playing with. Zhang, I think, shot 63, possible course record at Pebble when she was in college. And I'll take Nelly Korda. So I'm going to take three monsters.
Yeah.
Three monsters on the ladies' tour. But
you got to think there's a good chance one of those is coming home with the victory.
I feel pretty good about that. Lydia Ko will be in the running. There's some great players clearly on that tour. But Brooke Anderson, Rose Zhang, which would be early in her career. I like Ludwig and Rose. Those are my two kids on the tour.
Ludwig and Rose. Sounds like a good little combo.
And Rose. Yes, absolutely. All right, Grappler, good stuff stepping in there for the John Deere and the U.S. Open. And the OverDrive PGA picks are brought to you by the all-new Stealth Irons from TaylorMade. Expect better shots more often. Learn more at TaylorMadeGolf.ca. Come back with our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. Jays Sox tonight. Any news coming out this week for the Leafs, for the Raptors? Probably not, because I'm off next week.
Yeah.
Right? Next week, Matthews will sign. Willie will get traded. Siakam will get traded.
Yeah, I was chatting with Jonas about it before the show. I believe, Matthews is going to sign on Tuesday, Nylander Thursday, maybe slide in a Samsonov contract sometime on Friday.
Yeah. Siakam, something will happen with Pascal.
Yeah. Mix in a big blow-up outing. I think
Manoah will be a mess.
That's the thing. I think Manoah will pitch well in his return on Friday, but then I guess when he makes his second start after being back on whatever it is, Tuesday or Wednesday, it'll just be an absolute disaster.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, you will not be here to react.
I will not be here to be reacting to that, but that's all right. It happens. What are you going to do?
C'est la vie.
All right, Grappler. Good seeing you. There he is. The Grappler himself. Up close and personal. We'll come back and recap a busy afternoon. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Somewhat of a recap here. Ludwig Aberg, my boy, top 20, getting plus money on that. Nick Taylor, top 30. Adam Svensson, top 40. Those are our standalone plays in terms of FanDuel and where we're at going into the John Deere. Okay, Ludwig Aberg, top 20. Nick Taylor, top 30. Adam Svensson, top 40. Love it. Canadian content. And a Swedish guy. All right. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today and find thousands of ways to wager. Please play responsibly. Must be 19 plus and physically located in Ontario. All right, Jonas. So I'm not sure when you're back. Are you back?
Friday.
Okay. So you're back this week. And then I'm off for a week. Mm-hmm. Are you anticipating anything shaking out here in Leafland? The NHL? Anything big happening?
I mean, you would think of the NHL, right? We talked about the Jets guys. You talked about the Brinkat.
Mm-hmm. Carlson's still out there too, right?
That's a spicier meatball.
Erik Karlsson is a spicy meat because I think San Jose needs to realize they got to eat a lot more money than they want to. Like, I understand why Mike Greer is trying to put a stake in the ground and why he's like, we're not doing that. Well, if there's no market for you, what are you going to do?
Well, and can you really hold him?
No, you got to move on from him.
There's never, he just won the Norris. There's never a better time to trade him,
and they
right?
stink.
And they stink.
And they're not even trying to improve. Like, I didn't get the sense on July 1 they were trying to bring in all these pieces that were going to, return to glory. Like, I think they understand this is a real rebuild, retool, flush a lot of stuff out. They just traded Timo Meier. Mm-hmm. Meier's in his prime, and they just traded him. Karlsson has got to go.
But it's not easy to make that work
I
if
understand.
you're another team, right?
If I'm another team, I'm not making it work unless they eat a lot of money.
But how much is a lot of money? So is he 11.5?
I think he's got to be an $8 million player to take him on. Minimum.
Even that
yes,
is not easy.
Even
to
that's
make
a lot.
Work.
Even that is a lot. But I could make it work at $8 million for 4 years for a guy that's that good.
Would you? So you would do it?
Yes. I would. Depending on the situation, I wouldn't do it in Toronto.
Okay.
I would not. I would not do it if I were the Maple Leafs. But there is a team out there that I could make sense of for sure. There'd be multiple teams.
Age doesn't scare you?
Scares me.
Injury history?
Yes, scares me.
But
he's still a great. He's 33, not 40, and he's a great player.
Yeah.
You know, if he was a free agent, would you sign him 4 years at $8 million? If you had that kind of money?
Yeah.
Probably, right?
I mean, what did Ryan Graves got 6 years at 4.8 or something like that?
What was the reaction down in Pitt to what Dubas was doing?
I don't know. They're in a honeymoon phase right now. They love everything.
Well, I think they love the fact that he was so active. Like, I'll give him credit. Like, Kyle has an attack plan, and he goes at it. He did the same thing in Toronto. He was active here around the deadline. Like, he is not shy, man. Kyle Dubas is not shy. But whatever money they had left, it's all been accounted for. Like, they spent it all, right?
That's another long contract for a goalie. I don't like those long.
Me neither. Tristan Jarry, injuries. He's good when he plays, when he's healthy. But you mentioned it. Graves, they bring in Smith.
Noel Acciari, 3-year contract.
I like that. I think that's
Noel
what he
Acciari.
should have got.
Yeah.
Yep. Noel Acciari, I think they paid appropriately. I think that's a good deal. I think Pitt got a good player there. But they brought in a bunch of guys.
Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen. I think it could be like a long summer.
It's still going to be the same guys. Yeah, like in Toronto you're talking about?
In Toronto, yeah.
Yeah. The Matthews one, I don't know. Like, it is kind of funny how there was all this anticipation about July 1 and the market's going to implode if he's not signed. And here we are on July 5th and nothing's changed. And I guess I'll credit his camp and likely the Leafs for making sure the media is aware and the media has been reporting. Like, it's all good. We're going to figure this out. Right? Where I think it's calmed the masses.
I don't know if that feels that way with Nylander. Feels that way with Matthews.
With Matthews, it does. Nylander, they're not expressing that. They're not leaking that it's going to work out. Yeah. Matthews, they're trying to calm the masses. Like, hey, it's going to be all good. We'll get this thing done. Until it actually gets done, and then the reaction will be viral.
This is so much, or this isn't long enough. Or,
yeah. Like, if he, who knows what he's going to sign for. It doesn't seem as if 8 years is in the cards. Doesn't seem as if 7 years is in the cards.
They're not against it.
But what would that price have
to pay for it?
Yeah.
16, 15-ish. It's a lot. I mean, yeah.
So you're telling me you think if Brad Treliving called up Austin Matthews and his agent and said, we'll give you 8 years at $16 million per, he'd sign it?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I hope he would. Imagine he didn't. Then you got a real problem.
And the problem is, like, the cap will go up next year, but that's still a big chunk of pie.
It's ridiculous. And it's, again, I blame Dubas and Shanahan for allowing him to just sign a 5-year deal to begin with. There should be 4 years left at 11.6, where the final 3 years on the deal, it goes up $4 million, then $4 million, $4 million. Like, his last year should be $11.6 million on like a $96 million cap. And it didn't happen.
So do you think the play was don't sign that deal, just let it go, and even take it into restricted free agency?
Yeah.
And if someone offer sheets him?
Well, no one was going to, because the NHL doesn't operate that way.
So then, yeah.
Now, maybe he would have pulled a Kachuk and said, hey, I'll sign a 1-year deal. Like, I'm not signing, and then you're just going to walk me to arbitration and then walk me out of here.
Yeah.
And he very well could have done that. But
I like 5 years. I actually think I don't even know if 8 years for almost anyone makes sense.
I hear you. I think it would be ideal. I think it'd be a great gesture. I think it would be a message to the team. I've expressed this so many times. But if it's a 5-year deal, that's an extension. That means he's got 6 more years here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's already been here for, 7 years? That'll be 13 years. That's an eternity in pro sports.
Entire prime.
That's his whole prime you're getting. That happens, okay. Like, no one's going to cry over that. No one's going to complain. It's just going to come down to what the number is.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to make a prediction here is that he'll take a little bit less, and they'll leak it that he took a little bit less.
I think that.
So let's say it's $14 million. It'll be 13.75. He could have got 14.5. Like, they'll make sure that everyone knows that. But Austin wanted 13.75.
Smart.
PR, it's a brilliant
Just like the
move.
John Tavares contract. He could have got 13 in San Jose.
McDavid did the same thing in Edmonton, remember? He ended up signing for 12.5, and it was like, well, they were going to sign for 13.25, but he wanted to make sure that there was money for other guys. PR 101. It's a great play. All right, Jonas. Great seeing you, man.
We'll see you on Friday.
We'll see you on Friday. Absolutely. There he is, Jonas Siegel of The Athletic. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at 4 p.m. We'll chat then.